You know, those first few years in your copywriting career are extremely, extremely important because they could make the difference between, creating a very profitable lifestyle very early on and also being stuck and struggling for many, many years. And so I like to ask lots of copywriters in the interviews that we do and also share my own perspective on, the biggest challenges, the biggest regrets a lot of copywriters make in the beginning of their career. But guess what? Today, I'm not going to be sharing it myself.
Oh, God. God.
I have Sean MacIntyre here with me, and he's going to be sharing his 3 life regrets.
Biggest life regrets. Oh, yeah, copywriting regrets. Yes.
Copywriting,
so when I was 12, I had,
Yeah, so thanks for joining me, man, and it's really cool to have you here in Osaka, of all places.
Oh my God, we're in Japan?
Yeah.
You're from South Africa and I'm from Florida, and somehow we managed to, just for the sake of this one video, have so much money from our copywriting that we paid to fly just to film this little 8-minute video.
I mean, I did it for the ramen too, but... So Sean.
Yes.
You've been in copywriting and direct response marketing for how many years?
Oh my God. I have been writing for money for 23 years.
Over 2 decades.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first few years?
Unfortunately, yes. They were very formative for me.
How was it? What were the regrets?
So I had a sort of different introduction into this world. So I was mainly doing sort of content writing and then also copywriting, and I didn't even realize it was copywriting and also web-based copy early on in my career. I was just doing it, and I did it because I always wanted to be paid to be a writer. But the problem that sort of came along with that is that I had all these sorts of like artsy-fartsy ambitions. Like, oh, I want to be the sort of Hunter S. Thompson of like, bands in like Southern like California and stuff like that. That's where I got my start. And so I was covering art shows and I was covering bands, and I was only accepting jobs and blogs and other sorts of writing gigs and reviews related to stuff like that. And I was sort of ignoring everything else that like I felt like put a bad taste in my mouth. And so I was very limited in that way where, I had this sort of self-imposed limitation of the kinds of writing jobs that I would do. And what I realized 10, 12 years into it was that like, oh, I really was just spending all that time sawing my legs off because I wasn't growing, I wasn't learning. Yeah, it's great to have artsy-fartsy ambitions if you are the 1 in a trillion who can get to that level. But like, I could have done the same thing and still had artsy-fartsy ambitions and also wrote a few sales pages along the way. And I would have advanced in my career faster. I would have made a lot more money faster. I would have had a more fulfilling life faster. I had some hard years in there. It sucked. But what I will say is that once I partially learned this from Mark Ford, my main and first mentor, like I could have had everything that I had on the fulfillment and cultural and like the life affirming side without having to sacrifice the money.
Yeah.
I sort of, I feel like there's a valorization. Like most of the people watching this, they're getting into copywriting because they want money.
Yeah.
But I came from a different world, a world where it was like money, oh, ew, And so there's this whole other pocket of people that are interested in copywriting that do have that opinion. And I came from there. And so what I had to learn was that money is not bad. Money, hold on a second, might actually be good. And it allows you to accomplish more of the things that you care about and the things that you love, and to take care of the people that you love, and to have fulfillment in life without having to be exploitative capitalist man,
Right.
And so I don't think that that's going to resonate with like a lot of the audience of this who are just like, I know that money is fine. Money is fine. Money is fine. But if I could go back in time, I would have much sooner sort of not just on content. I would have also focused on sales and conversion focused copy and other things too, especially like 2002, 2003, before the VSL was a thing. Oh my God, I would have cleaned up, man.
Yeah. I think there is a it's definitely relevant as well for copywriters who are making okay money, but they're not making that next level income that they want because they're maybe either afraid of learning those other skills they don't currently have, or they think that those skills are going to come at the cost of their lifestyle. Like, oh, if I go learn how to write VSLs, that's a lot of pressure. I don't know if I want to work that many hours. There's a lot of like self-disqualifying. I don't know if I should go for that copywriting gig because that looks like a full-time thing I can't do, right? Whereas these skills are actually not as hard as you think, and you can do them. It's not like a creative thing where it's like you either have it or you don't. It's really just to put the right reps in, get the right people to support you, and you actually can have the lifestyle and the money, right?
And yes, and one of the things that I learned early on is that what gets you there is not what gets you here.
Oh, it's flipped.
Yeah. Like if you got to this point and you're making solid money, the thing that will get you there is not going to be the thing that got you here. Yeah. And so the people that are hoping that some extraordinary thing will happen to them when they're just doing ordinary and very much the same thing over and over again, you're not going to get extraordinary results from ordinary actions. And sometimes there is a sort of devil's bargain that comes along with that, where you do have to give up some things to get what you want. But what I did learn was that you don't have to sacrifice your values, you don't have to sacrifice your lifestyle, you don't have to sacrifice your future. And on top of that, let's just speak practically for a moment. What we're talking about is like, oh, if you're an email copywriter, maybe learn how to do a sales letter.
Yeah.
And like, okay, we're not like reinventing the wheel here. Go try to learn this other skill, get some practice in that. Because worst case scenario, you learn a few things over here practicing this that makes it over here and makes that better. It just expands your skill set. In academia, we call that transferability. And copywriting, all types of copywriting, is a supremely transferable skill. Most of the people watching this, sorry to say, are probably not going to become your super ultra rich copywriters. Oh no, YouTube retention. But one thing that I will say about that though is that you can still learn copywriting now, and then you can apply those skills in your whatever else career, and that's just going to have a natural, incredible boost. Because guess what? All the rich people in corporations and in other situations, they're all good writers. They're all great persuaders. They're all interesting and intelligent marketers. And copywriting is just a master key, a skeleton key to all of that. It's transferable. And that's something that I think is extremely valuable and something I wish I had learned a lot earlier.
And to, bounce off that as well, when you have those skills, right, then you actually can get opportunities that you wouldn't previously be able to get because you have things that you could, like, even if you're a copywriter and you plan to stay a copywriter, right? You don't actually go into other things. If you know how to write that extra type of copy, there might be a client that's not looking for email right now, but they are looking for the VSL. They are looking for the creatives on Facebook. They're looking for something else. So maybe you love email, because I love email, and like that was my thing. But I knew that the market was currently, like right now, as of the recording of this, it's like the market's looking for creative strategy. They're looking for video copy. They're looking for VSL and full stack. They're not really, there's not as many email gigs as there were 4 or 5 years ago. So it's like, if you just learn those skills, you can get in with those businesses and, deliver on the thing that you really just recently learned. And then you can go and get the email on the back end of that or whatever it is, right? Okay, yeah, it's good.
Well, just to sort of like piggyback off of what you just said, like it is a lot easier to get paid by a business to do one additional thing than to go find a new client to do that thing. If you already have the relationship, you just build on the relationship. Easy peasy. So
what's the second thing then?
Oh God. Okay, here's a fun regret. Very early on in my sales copywriting career, I got the entrepreneurship bug. And in addition to, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Entrepreneurship bug, okay.
And I was just obsessed with like, okay, in addition to, my, the content writing, I was a managing editor at the time. I was also learning sales copy. I was also running a division of Agora, the business there, a very small division of a company called Palm Beach Research Group. And me and a business partner, CopyThat's Lindsay, she and I started a business together, and we just started trying to like spin up an agency and just sort of like partner with other businesses locally and things like that. And we learned a lot from that. But I wish I had just taken a few more years and, most importantly, built up a little bit more capital before I started doing that. because we were trying to bootstrap all these different offers and all these different things across all these different niches. And while that was really, really educational for me, I would have seen a lot more success doing that if I actually had some money. It wasn't just trying to build everything from square zero.
To hire people.
To hire people rather than doing it all myself. Not to tip my hand too much, but like, you know, I'm on marriage 2 right now. And I would say that a significant contributor to the end of marriage 1 was the fact that I literally was working all of the time, 5 in the morning until 1 o'clock at night, every single day.
That's a lot of
weekends,
hours. Yeah.
nonstop.
Is that because you were trying to do that as well at the same time?
I was trying to do too many things all at once, where if I, instead of just half-assing 5 things, I could have just whole-assed 1 thing and then made money from that. And then I could have half-assed another thing. I would have had so much more capital and so much more experience and so much more knowledge and so much more ability that half-assing it would have been enough. Whereas because I started too early, it wasn't enough and a lot of things failed.
How do you know when it is time to make that transition? Let's say if you do have the entrepreneurial bug and you do believe that there's more that you're going to do than like, you know, copywriting, you're going to launch your own stuff. When do you, what kind of things are you looking for?
$50,000.
That's the base. Is that savings?
That's it. No. That is amount of money that you can contribute to whatever new venture that you want to bootstrap.
Without worrying about if you lose it or not.
Exactly.
Okay, so $50,000 that you don't need.
$50,000 that you do not need, that's just gone. Like, you pretend it doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
That is the money that you're committing to your chocolate e-com business. That is the amount of money that you're committing to your GPS dog collar tracker business. It's $50,000.
And it's not your savings, it's not investments, it's money that you could afford to lose.
Exactly.
That's a big differentiator, hey? Because if you have $50,000 of savings, I think a lot of people will be like, oh, but I'm going to save $50,000 and then do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, it's not $50,000. It's okay.
You're not
50.
Well, honestly, I got that from Mark Ford because that's his throwaway money. Where it's like if there's anybody in a meeting with him where they're trying to get him to invest in their stuff, his go away and don't talk to me number is, here's a check for $50,000. Please don't talk to me again. And what he gets is like a little bit of equity in their business. And so if their business does well and he now gets a check because of what he owns, he's happy and he continues that relationship. But that number, it's not a loan. It's actually like, here's your, go away, do your thing. I don't want to know about it unless it works. If it doesn't work,
that's good.
It's just money I don't care about. And I think that that's really good because especially for new people that want to use copywriting as the stepping stone into like offer ownership or e-com or something else, having $50,000 puts you in a different category as some schmuck who's just going to be like, you know, I'm an offer owner now. I have an Instagram where, you know, check out my gold watch that is a knockoff Rolex that I got at a dime store. Like, it puts you in a different camp because now all of a sudden you have a budget for ads. Not only production, but also for ad spend. You also have a budget for personnel. You don't have to do it all yourself too. So $50,000 immediately out of the gate puts you in a different camp, and it takes serious money.
Yeah, it's true.
If you come in and you have the $50,000 to spend on scaling and growing your business, people take you seriously.
Yeah. And if you have that 50K, then it means that you could probably make another 50K, right? So it's like, even if it doesn't initially work and it's 2 to 3 times more expensive, you've already got that taste that it is working.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't find that money again to double down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. It's really good. Because 20K is too small. 20K is, that's very good.
Because, and what I like assigning the dollar amount to that rather than like, you need these skills and you need these experiences and stuff like that, because let's be real for a moment. Your first few entrepreneurial ventures are probably going to fail. Like I'm not. Is it possible to get super rich as a copywriter or an offer owner or whatever? Yes, it's possible. Is it probable? No. 2 completely different things. Same thing with entrepreneurship. Most entrepreneurs fail. Most businesses fail right out of the gate.
My first 3 offers failed.
Yeah, my first several businesses failed. My first 2 agencies were profitable until they weren't.
Yeah.
You know, and so one of the things that I learned was like, you kind of have to spend the money to get those failures under your belt fast so that you have the experience and the wisdom. It doesn't matter how smart you are. What matters is your experience and your wisdom that will allow you to not make the same mistakes and allow you to grow and give you the insights that you need to actually grow a real business.
like
and you
it.
can't get that until you try.
That's fantastic. That's a good number. I actually really like that. It's the perfect middle ground.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
And I imagine like, region to region or person to person, that number is going to shift and change.
Yeah, sure.
But it's the $50,000, if you are very serious, like as a copywriter or a marketer, it's big money, but it's not like going to crush your life forever money.
Yeah. And if it is, then you're not ready, right?
Exactly.
Because then you can't afford to lose it.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's number 3?
Well, I mean, that ties into sort of the first thing that I was talking, well, I guess it would be the second thing as well, which is that like, because I was doing so much, here's a story I like to tell on stream. I don't think I've ever told it in a real video before. I was sitting at James Altiture's comedy club.
Okay.
In the Upper West Side of New York. And I was having a drink with a marketer. You probably know, you can find him on LinkedIn. His name is Chris Daigle. And Chris Daigle is probably the person that you want to speak to if you were trying to hire somebody. Like if you have a very specific need for a very specific person, for a very specific business, you talk to Chris Daigle. Chris Daigle knows a guy and can slot people into that slot immediately.
Wow.
So he and I were drinking together at James Altiture's comedy club. And this was at the time when my marriage was failing. I was trying to do like 7 different things. I wasn't getting any sleep. I was all over the place. I got halfway through my list of shit that I was describing. And Chris Daigle just stops me and goes, Sean, when are you going to stop fucking around? Yeah.
Okay.
And that, when he says that, he didn't really say much more than that. He didn't give me advice. He just said, when are you going to stop fucking around? Because it makes you realize, like, I'm doing all this stuff and not seeing results, and I'm not getting the outcomes that I want from all the different stuff that I'm doing. So why am I doing it? Why? And more importantly, I didn't need to be doing all of that. I could have been making more money doing fewer things. Why wouldn't I just choose to do that? Why was I fucking around? And subsequently, finding out. And so that for me was the big thing that I would change, which is if you try to do too many things, you end up doing no things. If you try to move in every single direction, you end up staying in place. I mean, it's appropriate since we're in Japan to be a little zen about it. But like, if you try to accomplish so many goals, and I imagine people watching, like they have a ton of goals. That's one of the reasons why they're trying to do this.
Yeah.
If you narrow down the number of goals you have, you will end up getting more out of life.
I like it. It's not just about doing too many things. It's actually also then about not having too many goals all at the same time. Yeah. I think that's really difficult when you're in the beginning, right? Because you have so many things and life is coming up and you want to do so many things, right? Yeah. But it's like, I've actually noticed that in my personal life and like my business life too, is that every single year I'm looking back, I'm setting less and less goals every year and more of the goals get hit. Yeah. Right? So
and you get more fulfillment.
And it actually feels like when you hit less goals like that, it actually opens up more stuff that you didn't even expect from life too, right? So you actually do end up doing more even though you're doing less. So it's a very, that's good. So focus on just the key things.
Yep. The key things that really matter to you and that move
matter to you specifically. Yeah. Thank you. This was great. Yeah, this was really good. And thanks for flying all the way to Japan for me.
Thank you for flying all the way to Japan for me. I really appreciate that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Where can people find the other video that we did?
Oh God.
And also find you.
Well, okay. I'll give the CTA. So if you want to hear the things that Matt regrets from early on in his copywriting career, head on over to either the link in the description below or the link that you currently see on the screen, and that will take you to a video where he actually shares his insights about what he would do differently if he had to start all over again. Thank you very much for watching Matt Volkwin's channel. Check us out at CopyThat. We're pretty good. We're not great. We're pretty good.
They're great. Check out the video where I share all those things, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right.